Welcome, my name is Bianca Lopez and I'm a contributing editor at Hot Topics. I'm super excited to have you here at Money 2020 in Amsterdam. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm Stuut. I'm the CEO of Jumio.
Yeah.
And we do online identity verification. We try to figure out who you are in spite of the world being anonymous on the internet. Your Gmail address isn't good enough.
Isn't good enough. The identity space is super hot. And there's so many things right now regarding, first of all, how do you even start defining it? What does Jumio define as the identity space that they work in? You work in trust and identity as a service. Tell me more about that.
Well, the way we phrase it is when identity really matters. Now, the real point is you can identify yourself by saying who you are, but are you really that person? And if you pull up a document and say, here's my document, did you really own it or did you maybe steal it? Yeah. And so our idea of identity is finding out who you truly are in the real world, as opposed to scraping databases and saying, we found you in all sorts of different places, so you must exist. That doesn't mean that is even you, or that we, the client, may want to use you as a customer.
So you have a lot of clients here at Money 2020. When do you think about the identity ecosystem landscape? Like, what state are we at? Like, are we at infancy? Do you think the industry really understands what identity is supposed to be?
You know, they have a very good understanding here to a degree.
Yeah.
A lot of it derives from regulators who say, I'm going to hurt you if you don't figure out for AML and KYC reasons who this person is.
Yeah.
We have a lot of customers that are not here. More of them are not here than there are here because they are in the sharing economy, the travel industry, where trust matters, like Airbnb. They don't have to do anything, and they invest beautifully in the idea of, so, I need to have you be able to trust that the host is who they claim they are and the renter is, because there's $1 million home at stake. Or my personal safety if I'm the renter.
Yeah.
And so they're a good example of a customer who's used us for as long as they've been around, actually.
And they're really using identity to create that bond of trust and relationship, right?
Correct.
That's the fundamental difference.
In the financial industries, that's core to their heart, obviously.
Yeah.
But have they done it in a way that is the way in which a company like an Airbnb would do it, or in the US, Instacart, or somebody else who they didn't have to, and they think about how do they put it all together. And so I think sometimes the attackers here, the digital companies, of whom we have a lot of those guys, are coming at it.
Because they don't have the legacy infrastructure, and they can reply to the pain of GDPR maybe a little bit better. So tell me a little bit about being in identity space and looking at identity from a regulatory perspective. A lot of people are starting to attach identity to privacy and privacy to GDPR. What does Jumio think of all that?
Well, let's start from the personal level of it, is that I think it's kind of creepy. The Cambridge Analytica Facebook thing is a kind of creepy thing. So as a person, you want the idea that someone is going to protect all of your data. And the GDPR is actually way ahead of obviously what the US already, shall we say, should have, but doesn't have yet. The GDPR is very, very clear about certain things you have to do.
Yeah.
And one of those things is protect your data, encrypt the data, be sure you have everything controlled. Yeah. If there is a breach, you need to know what to do. And there's a lot of companies who think they may have done that right. But if you're PCI compliant, which is the standard for credit cards, this industry leads with that.
Yeah.
That means that you have met those requirements. There's many other ways to do it that you haven't, but that's not enough. And one of the coolest things going on right now with us and many of us is using machine learning. There's all this data, which is what was being done by Cambridge Analytica improperly.
Yeah.
But the idea is enhancing the ability to find the fraudsters. Well, you have to do it right. And you can't do it the old way. And as an example, I was at a trade show recently. A CEO of a company, very proud of their AI, was saying, we've never had a human involved in our solution. And I sat there and went, you are GDPR not compliant.
And why is that?
Well, number one, he didn't know what the ground truth is. Ground truth is defined by the human saying, this is what the false R looks like, or what the hole in the ID looks like. But if you never had a human involved, you will not be able to survive the requirement for a human to say, I got rejected for a credit card. Why? And they go, well, the AI said no. You can't do that anymore. You have to be able to have a human respond in language that can be understood by a real human, right?
So when you think about putting humans in the equation when it comes to identity, like I'm a super believer of that, because at the end of the day we're doing all of this for human beings. where do you see the barrier? And maybe what are you excited about when you come to Money 2020? What technologies that excite you that might be able to solve that problem?
Well, other than us, obviously.
Yeah?
Yeah, no, I think the idea that you really need to mix the two, you have to. A technology-enabled service or an enhanced AI with people, that allows you to, number one, get the truth in and get new data in to make sure you keep adding new things. The biometrics is a very nice addition to that.
Yeah.
That's another set of PII information. You have to protect it too.
And a huge array of technologies that are coming to Money 2020 that are doing that, right?
Yeah.
And now with everything with Apple and open source, do you think the future of identity can be open sourced or can be open to the public? Do you think it's going to be in the holds or in the hands of the banks?
It's not going to be in the banks, it'll be in multiple places. And that's where you need somebody like us and other competitors who specialize in providing them the infrastructure to do it well. But you really don't, I think you don't want Facebook, Google, SAP, and everybody to share what they think everything is, because what if they got it wrong, right? What if they don't do their work right?
Yeah.
I think you're going to end up with
And how do you think that it differs when you think about the banking industry?
The banking industry, they're very thorough about making sure they don't lose things. That's a good start. But they're the target, right? They're the never-ending target. They get hit 1,000 times a day.
Yeah.
So they've spent a lot of time and money on it. The problem would be their world, and this is not a criticism, their world was you go into a branch because that's where we make sure everything is right.
It was an analog world.
It was an analog world.
Yeah.
That's done. We are completely offline, online, but off of the premise, always. Having said that, some people bring an iPad, put it in the lobby, and put us there because we actually know what an Alaska driver's license is supposed to look like. Is that person standing there now? Or how about a fraudulent Pakistani one? Do you know what it looks like? But that whole world of having complete control goes away when you want to have a digital journey. For all the, to be honest, the millennials, my kids have never been in a bank, and they never will.
Yeah.
So how do you know it was them?
You don't? I don't know.
Do you?
Are you due when identity matters? I'm not sure.